Brought to you by WikiVidi documentaries. Truffle. A truffle is the fruiting body of a subterranean Ascomycete fungus, predominantly one of the many species of the genus tuber. Truffles are ectomycorrhizal fungi and are therefore usually found in close association with tree roots. Spore dispersal is accomplished through fungivores, animals that eat fungi. Some of the truffle species are highly prized as food. French gourmet Jean Anthelme Brillat-Savarin called truffles the diamond of the kitchen. Edible truffles are held in high esteem in French, Croatian, Georgian, Bulgarian, Greek, Italian, Middle Eastern, and Spanish cuisine, as well as in international. Antiquity. The first mention of truffles appears in the inscriptions of the Neo-Sumerians regarding their Amorite enemies' eating habits, and later in writings of Theophrastus in the 4th century BC. In classical times, their origins were a mystery that challenged many. Plutarch and others thought them to be the result of lightning, warmth and water in the soil, while Juvenal thought thunder and rain to be instrumental in their origin. Cicero deemed them children of the earth, while Dioscorides thought they were tuberous roots. Rome and Thracia in the classical period produced three kinds of truffles, the and the. The Romans, however, did not use these, and instead used a variety of fungus called Truffes, also sometimes called a desert truffle. Truffes used in Rome came from Lesbos, Carthage, and especially Libya, where the coastal climate was less dry in ancient times. Their substance is pale, tinged with rose. Unlike truffles, truffes have little inherent flavor. The Romans used the truffes as a carrier of flavor, because the truffes tend to absorb surrounding flavors. Indeed, ancient Roman cuisine used many spices and flavorings, and truffes were perfect in that context. Middle Ages. Truffles were rarely used during the Middle Ages. Truffle hunting is mentioned by Bartolomeo Platina, the papal historian, in 1481, when he recorded that the sows of Nozar were without equal in hunting truffles, but they should be muzzled to prevent them from eating the prize. According to a hadith narrated by Sa'id bin Zaid, Muhammad said that truffles are like manna and that water from truffles heals our diseases. Renaissance and modern times. During the Renaissance, truffles regained popularity in Europe and were honored at the court of King Francis I of France. However, it was not until the 17th century that Western cuisine abandoned heavy, oriental spices, and rediscovered the natural flavor of foodstuffs. Truffles were very popular in Parisian markets in the 1780s. They were imported seasonally from truffle grounds, where peasants had long enjoyed their secret. Brillat-Savarin noted characteristically that they were so expensive they appeared only at the dinner tables of great nobles and kept women. A great delicacy was a truffled turkey. Cultivation. Truffles long eluded techniques of domestication, as Jean Anthelme Brillat-Savarin noted. The most learned men have sought to ascertain the secret, and fancied they discovered the seed. Their promises, however, were vain, and no planting was ever followed by a harvest. This perhaps is all right, for as one of the great values of truffles is their dearness, perhaps they would be less highly esteemed if they were cheaper. However, truffles can be cultivated. As early as 1808, there were successful attempts to cultivate truffles, known in French as. People had long observed that truffles were growing among the roots of certain trees, and in 1808, Joseph Talon, from Apt in southern France, had the idea of transplanting some seedlings that he had collected at the foot of oak trees known to host truffles in their root system. For discovering how to cultivate truffles, some sources now give priority to Pierre Mauléon of Loudun, who began to cultivate truffles around 1790. Mauléon saw an obvious symbiosis between the oak tree, the rocky soil and the truffle, and attempted to reproduce such an environment by taking acorns from trees known to have produced truffles, and sowing them in chalky soil. His experiment was successful, with truffles being found in the soil around the newly grown oak trees years later. In 1847, Auguste Trousseau of Carpentras planted 7 hectares of oak trees, and he subsequently obtained large harvests of truffles. He received a prize at the 1855 World's Fair in Paris. These successful attempts were met with enthusiasm in southern France, which possessed the sweet limestone soils and dry, hot weather that truffles need to grow. In the late 19th century, an epidemic of phylloxera destroyed many of the vineyards in southern France. Another epidemic killed most of the silkworms there, too, making the fields of mulberry trees useless. Thus, large tracts of land were set free for the cultivation of truffles. Thousands of truffle-producing trees were planted, and production reached peaks of hundreds of tons at the end of the 19th century. In 1890, there were 75,000 hectares of truffle-producing trees. In the 20th century, however, with the growing industrialization of France and the subsequent rural exodus, many of these truffle fields returned to wilderness. The First World War also dealt a serious blow to the French countryside, killing 20% or more of the male working force. As a consequence, newly acquired techniques were lost. Also, between the two world wars, the truffle groves planted in the 19th century stopped being productive. Consequently, after 1945, the production of truffles plummeted, and the prices have risen dramatically. In 1900, truffles were used by most people, and on many occasions. Today, they are a rare delicacy reserved for the rich, or used on very special occasions. In the last 30 years, new attempts for mass production of truffles have been started. 80% of the truffles now produced in France come from specially planted truffle groves. Nonetheless, production has yet to recover its 1900s peaks. Local farmers are sometimes opposed to a return of mass production, which would possibly decrease the price of truffles. In exchange, there are heavy investments in cultivated plantations underway in many parts of the world. Thanks to controlled irrigation, regular and resilient production is indeed possible. There are now truffle growing areas in the United Kingdom, United States, Spain, Sweden, New Zealand, Australia, Chile, and South Africa. A critical phase of the cultivation is the quality control of the mycorrhizal plants. It takes between 7 and 10 years for the truffles to develop their mycorrhizal network, and only after that the host plants come into production. Both a complete soil analysis to avoid contamination by other dominant fungus and a very strict control of the formation of mycorrhizae are necessary to ensure the success of a plantation. Total investment per hectare for an irrigated and barrier-sealed plantation can cost up to €10,000. Considering the level of initial investment and the maturity delay, farmers who have not taken care of both soil conditions and seedling conditions are at higher risk of failure. In New Zealand and Australia, the first black truffles to be produced in the Southern Hemisphere were harvested in Gisborne, New Zealand, in 1993. In 1999, the first Australian truffles were harvested in Tasmania, the result of 8 years of work. Trees were inoculated with the truffle fungus in the hope of creating a local truffle industry. Their success and the value of the resulting truffles has encouraged a small industry to develop. A Western Australian venture, the Truffle and Wine Company, had its first harvest in 2004, and in 2005 they unearthed a 1 kilogram truffle. In 2008, an estimated 600 kilograms of truffles were removed from the rich ground of Manjimup. Each year, the company has expanded its production, moving into the colder regions of Victoria and New South Wales. In June 2010, Tasmanian growers harvested Australia's largest truffle from their property at Myrtle Bank, near Launceston. It weighed in at 1.084 kilograms and was valued at about $1,500 per kilogram. New Zealand's first burgundy truffle was found in July 2012 at a Waipara truffle farm. It weighed 330 grams and was found by the farm owner's beagle. Etymology. The origin of the word truffle appears to be the Latin term, meaning swelling, or lump, which became tougher and gave rise to the various European terms, Croatian, Danish, Dutch, English truffle, French, German, Italian, Polish, Romanian, Spanish, and Swedish. The German word is derived from the Italian term for truffle, because of superficial similarities. In Portuguese, the words are synonyms, the latter closer to the Latin term. Biology. The mycelia of truffles form symbiotic, mycorrhizal relationships with the roots of several tree species including beech, birch, hazel, hornbeam, oak, pine, and poplar. They prefer argillaceous or calcareous soils that are well drained and neutral or alkaline. Truffles fruit throughout the year, depending on the species, and can be found buried between the leaf litter and the soil. Phylogeny. The phylogeny and biogeography of truffles was investigated in 2008 using internal transcribed spaces of nuclear DNA with 5 major clades. This was later improved and expanded in 2010 to 9 major clades using large subunits of mitochondrial DNA. The magnatum and macrosporum clades were distinguished as distinct from the aestivum clade. The gibbosum clade was resolved as distinct from all other clades, and the spinoreticulatum clade was separated from the rufum clade. Black truffle. The black truffle or black Perigord truffle, the second most commercially valuable species, is named after the Perigord region in France and grows with oak and hazelnut trees. Black truffles are harvested in late autumn and winter. The genome sequence of the black truffle was published in March 2010. Summer or burgundy truffle. The black summer truffle is found across Europe and is prized for its culinary value. Burgundy truffles are harvested in autumn until December and have aromatic flesh of a darker color. White truffle. The white truffle or Trifolia d'Albumadonna is found mainly in the Langhe and Montferrat areas of the Piedmont region in northern Italy and, most famously, in the countryside around the cities of Alba and Asti. Aqualigna, in the northern part of the Marca near Urbino, is another center for the production and commercialization of white truffles, and its annual festival is one of the most important in Italy. White truffles can also be found in Molise, Abruzzo and in the hills around San Miniato, in Tuscany. It is also found on the Istria Peninsula, in Croatia in the Motovan forest along the Miona River, and in Slovenia along the Dragonja and Rizana River, as well as in the Drôme area in France, growing symbiotically with oak, hazel, poplar and beech and fruiting in autumn. They can reach 12 cm diameter and 500 grams, though are usually much smaller. The flesh is pale cream or brown with white marbling. Italian white truffles are very highly esteemed and are the most valuable on the market. The white truffle market in Alba is busiest in the months of October and November, when the Fiera del Tartufo takes place. In 2001, the tuber magnatum truffle sold for between $1,000 to $2,200 per pound. As of December 2009, they were being sold at $14,203.50 per kilogram. In 1999, one of the largest truffles in the world was found near Buj, Croatia. The truffle weighed 1.31 kilograms and has entered the Guinness Book of Records. The record price paid for a single white truffle was set in December 2007, when Macau casino owner Stanley Ho paid $330,000 for a specimen weighing 1.5 kilograms, one of the largest truffles found in decades. It was unearthed near Pisa, Italy, and sold at an auction held simultaneously in Macau, Hong Kong, and Florence. This record was then matched on November 27, 2010. When Ho again paid $330,000 for a pair of white truffles, including one weighing nearly a kilogram. In December 2014, a white truffle weighing 4.16 pounds or 1.89 kilos was unearthed in the Umbrian region of Italy. It was auctioned at Sotheby's in New York. While some had expected it to sell for $1 million, it was sold for $61,000 to a Taiwanese buyer. A variety of white truffle is found in other parts of northern and central Italy, but is not as aromatic as those from Piedmont. Whitish truffle. The whitish truffle is a similar species found in Tuscany, Abruzzo, Romagna, Umbria, the Marca and Molise. It is not as aromatic as those from Piedmont, although those from Città di Castello come quite close. Other species. A less common truffle is garlic truffle. In the U.S. Pacific Northwest, several species of truffle are harvested both recreationally and commercially, most notably, the Leucangium carthusianum, Oregon black truffle, Tuber gibbosum, Oregon spring white, and Tuber oregonense. The Oregon winter white truffle, Calipo oebrunea, the Oregon brown truffle, has also been commercially harvested and is of culinary note. The pecan truffle Sin texans is found in the southern United States, usually associated with pecan trees. Chefs who have experimented with them agree They are very good and of potential as a food commodity. Although pecan farmers used to find them along with pecans and discard them, considering them a nuisance, they sell for about $160 a pound and have been used in some gourmet restaurants. Truffle-like species. The term truffle has been applied to several other genera of similar underground fungi. The genera Turfesia and Termania of the family Taphetiaceae are known as the desert truffles of Africa and the Middle East. Hart's truffle is a name for Elaphomycetacea. Psolithus tinctorius, which was historically eaten in parts of Germany, is sometimes called Bohemian truffle. Extraction. The female pig's natural truffle seeking, as well as her usual intent to eat the truffle, is due to a compound within the truffle similar to androstenol, the sex pheromone of boar saliva, to which the sow is keenly attracted. In Italy, the use of the pig to hunt truffles has been prohibited since 1985, because of damage caused by animals to truffles mycelia during the digging that dropped the production rate of the area for some years. Volatile constituents. The volatile constituents responsible for the natural aroma of truffles are released by the mycelia, fruiting body, or derive from truffle-associated microbes. The chemical ecology of truffle volatiles is complex, interacting with plants, insects and mammals, which contribute to spore dispersal. Depending on the truffle species, life cycle or location, these are most notably, a number of truffle species and varieties are differentiated based on their relative contents or absence of sulfides, ethers or alcohols, respectively. The sweaty musky aroma of truffles is similar to that of the pheromone androstenol that also occurs in humans. The volatile profiles of 7 black and 6 white truffle species have been studied. Culinary use. Because of their high price and their pungent aroma, truffles are used sparingly. Supplies can be found commercially as unadulterated fresh produce or preserved, typically in a light brine. White truffles are generally served raw and shaved over steaming buttered pasta, salads, or fried eggs. White or black paper-thin truffle slices may be inserted into meats, under the skins of roasted fowl, in foie gras preparations, in pates, or in stuffings. Some specialty cheeses contain truffles, as well. The flavor of black truffles is far less pungent and more refined than that of white truffles. Their strong flavor is often described as syrupy sweet. Black truffles also are used for producing truffle salt and truffle honey. While in the past chefs used to peel truffles, in modern times, most restaurants brush the truffle carefully and shave it or dice it with the skin on so as to make the most of this valuable ingredient. A few restaurants in Switzerland still stamp out circular discs of truffle flesh and use the skins for sauces. Truffle oil. Truffle oil is used as a lower cost and convenient substitute for truffles, to provide flavoring, or to enhance the flavor and aroma of truffles in cooking. Most truffle oil, however, does not contain any truffles. The vast majority is olive oil, which has been artificially flavored using a synthetic agent such as 2,4-dithiapentane. Brought to you by WikiVidi documentaries. Would you like to know more